There are many ways to manage and control projects. One of my favorite was something called MBWA, and that stands for Management by Walking Around. And if you've ever had the situation where you wanted to find out how well a project was doing, and you actually got up from your desk and wandered out into the hallway and found somebody that was supposed to be working on different aspects of the project, you'd go up to them and start asking them a question like, well, so how is your part of the project coming along? Depending on where they were in the project, they would say, well, hey, we're doing really well. We're almost done. We're going to be done very shortly. It's like kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not an oncoming train, so we're looking at finishing up this very, very quickly. So you walk back to your office thinking, well, okay, that's pretty good. Now I know what's going on. They said it was going to be done shortly, very quickly. They might have even given you a percentage of, hey, I'm 83.5% of the way done. So you're feeling very good about that conversation until you start thinking, well, wait a minute, what does shortly mean? What is how quickly is quickly? How close is this light at the end of the tunnel that's not an oncoming train? And wait a minute, how does he know that he's 83.5% of the way done when I asked him the same question last week and he said he was 74.75% of the way done? And by the time you sit back down at your desk, you kind of got this feeling that you just had a whole bunch of smoke blown past you, and you don't really know anything more now about how the project's coming along than you did 15 minutes ago when you left your desk. I don't know about you all, but I would sure like to have a much better way to manage and control my project because everything up to this point has been very subjective. And what we need to do is try to make it a little bit more objective. So in terms of what we're going to be doing for the next hour or so, what I'd like to do is to give you a taste of a much better way to control your project. I'm not looking to make you all experts at this, but I am hoping that you'll have a little bit more of a desire to learn about earned value management and actually try earned value management. So what we'll be doing, as you can see on the page here, is to figure out what should go into an effective control process and what makes that up, and I'm also going to give you a group of questions that you can be asking yourself to see if you do have an effective control process. We'll also spend a little bit of time setting something called a performance measurement baseline, and we will also learn to speak the language of earned value management. And one of the nice things about earned value management is that it's consistent throughout the world. So if you're doing a project in the United States, anybody working on earned value management would be using the same terms as somebody working in the UK or over in the Middle East or in Beijing or Australia. So we will use this language, and then we'll also talk about some basic recognized formulas and different ways to implement earned value management. And finally, we'll take a look to see if earned value management is actually right for your situation, for your projects, and I would like to spend a little bit of time going over just a couple of examples and seeing how earned value management can definitely help you. With some definitions, and start with the definition of control. Now, control is not an event, it is a process, meaning that it's an ongoing set of steps here, and what we are trying to do is compare our actual performance with what we had planned to do. Now, as we will see a little bit later, we will always have variance. If you don't have a variance, you probably ought to be worried that somebody's not telling you the truth. So we'll take a look at these variances and figure out what, if anything, we really want to do about them, and then take some corrective actions that are reasonable. Now, I'm sure that many of you, if not all of you, have heard of the standard triple constraints of cost and time and scope, and that's really what we'll be looking at when we're doing earned value management. Now, assumed in this is that we have also taken into account the quality that we wish to have in our projects, also the resources that we will be using, because that's part of our plan, whether that's human resources or material or equipment, and then also the risks associated with the project. So those are all assumed to be in our plan as we look to control whatever it is that we're doing. In terms of why we would need to be controlling this, I don't know you, but in my experience, I have always had the time, money, and resource that I know that I need in order to do everything that I know should be done on a project. So probably the best thing that I can do for myself is to figure out how I can use these the best way. I conserve my resources, and that includes time and money and people, etc. Now, the pictures at the bottom page actually lead into one of my favorite ways of thinking about this. If you look at the picture on the right, there you are in the center of the universe. So if you think of your organization, there you are, and around you revolves everything else in the organization, because you're the most important thing. Finance is there helping you, management is there helping you, your team members are there helping you, your contractors are there helping you, because you're the most important thing in the universe. Now, what that is more of what's called a Ptolemaic view of project management from a old Greek philosopher named Ptolemy, and his thought on the universe was that the Earth was the center of the universe. Everything revolved around it. I happen to believe in more of a Copernican view of project management. Now, Copernicus was a Polish astronomer in 1512 who came up with a radically different theory about the universe, and that was that the sun was the center of the universe, and everything revolved around the sun. I happen to believe in Copernican project management, which, by the way, I made up, so you won't find it in any other books anywhere. And standpoint, what I believe is that we as individual project managers are not the most important things in our organization's universe. We're kind of a little tiny speck of dust way out on the edge of the universe. And because of that, we are in competition with hundreds, thousands of other people all over our organization's universe for time, money, resource, etc. So since we're in competition, we've got to have a better and more efficient way of doing things. So the things that we control, we can't necessarily control our budget, because somebody else, at least in my world, used to give that to me. The one thing that I can control is my expenses to a certain extent. So if I can expenses a little bit better and see how I'm doing, then I might be able to actually use them more efficiently, lower those, and create a surplus for myself that I can then use to do the things that I know I should be doing on a project. So all that comes with having proper control of our project. Of the process, what I do is make sure that whatever processes that we have for controlling our project make sense. Now, earned value management is not right for all projects. Sometimes something as simple as a milestone or milestones could be much better. For instance, for this particular webinar, we are not doing earned value